You don't need dramatic changes to build a powerful life. It's the quiet, consistent habits you practice every day that shape your future. While others chase quick fixes and shortcuts, you're quietly building strength, disciplining your mind, guarding your peace, and deepening your purpose. Real transformation doesn't shout, it grows in silence. And with every silent step, you move closer to the life most only dream about, but never earn. In a few moments, I will teach you silent habits that quietly rewire your mind and permanently transform your entire life. Wake up before the world does. There's something sacred about the early morning when the world still sleeps and silence stretches wide like a blank canvas. You see, when you rise before the noise, you take the reins. You shape the day before it shapes you. But most people don't do this. They start behind, reacting, rushing, scrambling. You start ahead. Why is it so powerful? Because the world respects the man who begins on his own terms. When you wake early, you create space. Space to think, to plan, to breathe. Your mind is untouched by voices, opinions, obligations. This is when vision sharpens, when inner dialogue turns clear and firm. It's when your highest self speaks. Now you may ask, what does one do in these early hours? You don't rise early just to exist. You rise to move, to write, to walk, to read, to build the framework of your destiny before the sun even warms the earth. It's not about waking early to say you did. It's about what you do once you're up. You craft intention. You plant seeds. You train discipline. Picture this. While others lie beneath the comfort of blankets, you sit by a flickering lamp with a notebook in hand, setting your goals, commanding your mind. Or imagine taking a quiet walk under the gray-blue sky, forming plans with each step. By the time others begin, you've already conquered. Do you feel tired when you try this? Of course. But the body adjusts, discipline strengthens, your enemies will be comfort and excuse, but you must ask, what do I want more, ease or greatness? The quietest victories happen before the world watches. This is your time to step away from mediocrity. Rise with purpose. Rise for your future. 2, write down your thoughts daily. Your mind is a battlefield, and thoughts left unexamined grow wild, like weeds in a garden left untended. But the man who writes, he tames the chaos. He sees what he thinks. He sees who he is. Why does this matter? Because clarity is the first step to power. A confused mind cannot build, cannot decide, cannot act. But a written mind, one that faces itself on the page, becomes a weapon of focus. Most walk through life carrying burdens they never examine. You must not. So what do you write? You write what weighs on you. You write your plans, your confessions, your doubts, your decisions. The act itself is discipline, and with time it becomes revelation. Imagine you're troubled by a decision, uncertain, lost in endless thought. Then imagine sitting with paper and pen, writing it all out, what you fear, what you desire, the risks, the consequences. Suddenly it becomes visible. You see truth, you see patterns. You begin to know yourself. Or maybe each morning you write your goals again and again, not for motivation, but for imprinting. You train your mind to see only one direction, forward. But here's the danger. Most people don't write. They talk. They think. They drift. You must anchor your mind. Ask yourself, am I letting my thoughts wander freely, or am I mastering them? What would change if I gave them form every day? This habit is not for poets or philosophers. It is for builders of empires. You are not just writing, you are chiseling a life, page by page. 3, keep your word to yourself. You may lie to others and walk away with your head held high, but lie to yourself and the wound runs deep. A man who breaks promises to himself builds a life on cracked stone. Why does this destroy so many? Because every time you say, I'll do it, and then don't, you weaken your spine. You teach your mind that your word means nothing. And if your own mind doesn't believe you, how can it ever obey? The habit? Start small. Say you'll rise at a certain hour, and do it. Say you'll walk for 10 minutes, and do it, not for show, not for praise, but because you said so. This is where confidence is born, not in shouting your intentions, but in silently keeping them. Picture this. You tell yourself you'll finish a task by sundown. Come evening, you have a choice. Cut corners, make excuses, or keep your word, like a contract carved in stone. Each time you choose to follow through, you rise. You stand taller. Ask yourself, how often do I promise myself change, but deliver hesitation? What would my life look like if I became a man whose word, even to himself, was law? You see, greatness doesn't begin with grand gestures. It begins when no one is watching. When you hold the line, not because it's easy, but because your soul demands it. Your self-respect hangs in the balance. This habit is how kings without complaining. Most people seek ease, but ease is a thief. It robs you of strength. It steals your edge. You were not made for comfort, you were made to conquer. Why do hard things matter? Because growth lives on the other side of effort. Because the man who only does what's easy becomes soft, slow, weak. And weakness is a prison. Every time you do something difficult, without complaint, you become more than who you were. You become steel. What are these hard things? Rising early when your body protests. Finishing work that bores you. Holding your tongue when insulted. Pushing through fatigue when quitting is easy. Imagine this. You're out chopping wood. It's hot. You're tired. But instead of groaning, you swing again and again. No words, no drama, just movement. What does that teach you? That you are not a slave to feeling. That you can act without needing applause. But most people, they talk while they suffer. They cry out, they whine. And in doing so, they give pain power. Don't do this. Let your suffering be silent. Let your strength be shown, not spoken. So ask yourself, what is one difficult thing I avoid each day? And what would change if I faced it without complaint? True power isn't loud, it's quiet. It's a man doing what must be done, with no need for sympathy, no need for credit. That's the kind of man the world follows. Sit in silence and think daily. There's a power few dare to seek. A power not in action, not in words, but in stillness, true stillness, the kind that makes most men uncomfortable, the kind that strips away the noise of the world and confronts you with only one thing, yourself. You sit, you listen, you begin to feel the weight of your own thoughts, and in that sacred silence, a battle begins, not with the world, but with the chaos within your own mind. This is not weakness, this is the highest form of strength, because anyone can run, anyone can speak, but very few can sit still and face the truth. Most people spend their lives fleeing this silence. They drown themselves in constant movement. Why am I doing this? Who am I becoming? They fear the quiet because in the quiet, lies are exposed. And so they avoid it day after day until they forget who they are and wonder why life feels empty. But silence is the forge. In silence, the mind sharpens. Thought becomes a blade, cutting through confusion, carving out clarity. It is in stillness that you ask the questions that matter. What am I not facing? What am I pretending not to know? You wrestle with these truths not to feel good, but to become good. Because every breakthrough you seek begins in the battlefield of thought. You may sit by a window, nothing in your hands, nothing to do, you feel restless. But if you stay, if you endure that discomfort, something happens. The fog begins to lift. A memory returns. A vision sharpens. You realize you've been chasing noise to avoid a truth. And now, in this moment, it's staring right at you. That insight you couldn't grasp in the storm suddenly appears in the calm. Thought is not idle. Thought is preparation. If your thoughts are scattered, so too will be your life. But if your thoughts are ordered, deliberate, and forged in fire, your actions will carry the weight of a disciplined soul. Your path becomes intentional. Your words gain meaning. Your decisions stop wavering. Because they are no longer reactions, they are the results of deep reflection. The greatest men to ever walk this earth carved out time to think. They understood this simple truth. If you don't command your thoughts, the world will command them for you. You must protect your time. To think like a king protects his throne. This is not optional, this is survival. So ask yourself, when was the last time you sat still, truly still, and listened to what your soul was trying to say? Do it now. Do it daily. Because in that silence, you will not find weakness. You will find clarity, vision, and the quiet roar of your own inner power. Do one thing at a time. With full focus, scattered energy builds nothing. It leaks out in 1,000 directions, never gathering enough strength to make an impact. You feel exhausted, not because you're doing too much, but because you're never fully doing anything. Your mind is fragmented, split between what's in front of you and what's unfinished behind you. And in that constant switching, that restless skipping from one task to the next, you lose the very thing that produces greatness, focus. The truth is simple. A divided mind produces divided results, but a focused mind, unyielding, undistracted, unwavering, creates. Focus is not just a skill, it's a weapon. It cuts through chaos. It turns noise into progress. It transforms the ordinary into excellence. When you channel your entire being into one single task, you ignite a force greater than motivation. You tap into momentum. It's the magnifying glass effect. A scattered beam of sunlight warms the surface, but concentrated through a lens, it burns. Most people never burn through anything. They skim, they dabble, they begin without finishing. They quit when the fire should just be starting. But when you truly focus, something shifts. You don't multitask, you don't dabble, you lock in. You choose one thing and give it your entire command. You enter the task as if there is nothing else in the world, because in that moment, there isn't. You're not worried about your to-do list. You're not thinking about what's next. You are here. You are working as if the future hinges on this moment, because it often does. Picture it. You sit down in the morning, 5 tasks on your list. Most would panic, try to juggle them all, but you don't. You take the first one and commit to it like a craftsman. You give it time, presence, pride, and within 30 minutes, it's complete, not halfway, not carelessly rushed, but fully, precisely done. You breathe, you feel lighter, stronger, ready for the next. By noon, your list is shrinking, your mind is sharper, your energy isn't frayed, it's focused, you're not behind, you're ahead. Because you stopped leaking effort across everything and started pouring power into one thing at a time. But if you're not experiencing this clarity, ask yourself, why do you feel so scattered? What interruptions are you permitting? The world will always offer noise, but your strength lies in choosing to be undisturbed, to be fully present, fully engaged, fully alive in this moment. This is how builders build. This is how warriors win. This is how leaders lead. One task, one aim, one clear mind. If you want more results, don't just work harder, work sharper. Work with depth, not width, because mastery isn't found in frenzy. It's found in focus. One thing, all in, then the next. And that, day by day, is how quiet dominance is forged. Practice delayed gratification. There is a war inside you, a silent, constant battle between what you want now and what you truly want most. It plays out in moments so small they often go unnoticed. A click, a bite, a word, a decision made without thought. And yet these moments decide everything. One path leads to comfort, easy, sweet, immediate. The other leads to power, earned, delayed, enduring. This is the war between short-term cravings and long-term destiny. And the man who learns to win that war doesn't just change his habits, he changes his life. Why is this discipline so rare? Because it's easier to surrender than to resist. Most people trade gold for candy. They give away their future for a feeling that lasts seconds. They reach for what's available, not what's valuable. They want to feel good now, even if it costs them everything later. Pleasure is easy. Patience is hard. That's why so few ever build anything lasting. But the truth remains, the richest lives, the most unshakable men, are built by those who know how to wait. Understand this. It's not about rejecting pleasure forever. It's about when. The timing matters. Fruit picked too soon is bitter. A reward seized too early leaves nothing to grow. The man who delays gratification is not depriving himself. He is preparing himself for more, for better, for greatness. His delay is not denial. It is design. This is how real power is forged. You grind through the dull, thankless phase of the work, because you know it's not supposed to feel amazing right now. You save the money while others burn theirs for a dopamine hit, because you know wealth is not built through impulse. You keep silent in a heated moment because your peace and dignity are worth more than the illusion of being right. You tell yourself no, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to wait. Now picture this. Someone hands you 2 options, a small prize today or a far greater reward 30 days from now. What do you choose? The answer reveals your future. Most will choose the smaller prize, not because it's better, but because it's now. They've trained their minds to crave immediacy. But what happens if you choose differently? What if every time that moment appears, you say, not now, later, and bigger? Each time you do, you grow stronger. Your patience grows. Your will sharpens. Your life begins to compound. What once seemed like small choices begin to stack. Money saved becomes wealth. Arguments avoided become peace. Work done without applause becomes legacy. The man who can wait becomes the man with reserves of strength, of wisdom, of power. No one can take from him. Ask yourself, what do you always grab too quickly? What do you crave now that robs your future? Is it comfort, approval, indulgence? And what would happen, truly happen, if you just waited? if you trained your mind to serve the future instead of the moment. Discipline is simple. It's the act of choosing between what feels good now and what matters most later. And the man who masters that choice, who makes it every single day, becomes unstoppable. Because while others are addicted to speed, he is building strength. And in the end, life doesn't reward the quickest. It rewards the most prepared. Delay the impulse, delay the reaction, delay the reward, and watch your life rise beyond what you once thought possible. Finish what you start. The world is filled with people who begin. Enthusiasm comes easy at the start. Ideas are born in flashes of inspiration. Goals are written down with excitement, and energy surges in those first few steps. But the world doesn't reward you for what you begin. It only rewards what you finish. Completion is the currency of greatness. Starting a race gets you nothing. Crossing the finish line is what etches your name into history. And this is why finishing is rare. Because finishing hurts. The thrill of beginning fades fast, and then comes the grind. The part where no one is watching, where no one claps, where the only thing keeping you going is your own will. This is where most quit, not because they lack talent, but because they never train their spirit to endure the middle. They start one project, then another, always leaving behind half-built bridges, and they wonder why they feel scattered, drained, unfinished within themselves. It's because they're living in the wreckage of their own incomplete efforts. But when you finish, when you fight through the dull, the boring, the hard, the frustrating, you forge something inside you that cannot be bought: belief. Every time you finish something, no matter how small, you are proving to yourself that you are reliable, that you can endure discomfort, that you do not need constant motivation because you are driven by something deeper: mission. Completion creates identity. You stop saying, "I want to be disciplined," and start becoming disciplined. You stop dreaming about being confident and start walking with the quiet strength of someone who knows they keep their word. Finishing is powerful because it changes how you see yourself. You become a man who does what he says. You begin to trust your own decisions. You don't talk about your goals, you complete them. You stop being excited by beginnings and start being defined by your completions. And that shift, subtle at first, builds a momentum no outside motivation can match. Imagine this: you begin a hard task. It doesn't take long before resistance shows up. Doubt creeps in. Boredom drains your fire. Fear tells you it's not worth it. You think about stopping. Maybe no one would notice. Maybe you could come back later. But instead, you stay, you push, you silence the noise and grind forward. And then, after everything, you finish. You don't feel relief, you feel power. The power of follow-through. The power of proving to yourself that you're not ruled by feelings, you're ruled by decision. Even finishing something small, a workout, a reading plan, a promise to yourself, builds that internal fortress. You stack completions like bricks, and eventually nothing can shake your foundation. You're no longer interested in chasing motivation. You're living from a place of mastery, of personal proof, of legacy. Ask yourself, how many half-built bridges are you carrying? How many goals were left to rot because you walked away midway? And what would shift in your life if today you chose one of them to finish? Just one. How would it feel to close the loop, to put the flag in the ground and say, "It is done"? Ambition means nothing if it dies in the middle. Dreams mean nothing if they never reach the light of completion. The world remembers what you finished. That's what builds legacy. Not the dreamer, not the starter, but the man who sees it through. Refuse to complain. No matter what, complaining is the anthem of the weak. It is the language of those who have surrendered their strength without a fight. It takes no courage to point at pain. It takes no discipline to announce your discomfort. It is easy to speak about what's wrong. It is far harder to change it. Yet every time you complain, you cement an identity, a powerless one. You rehearse the same story, that you are a victim of circumstance, that life is happening to you rather than through you. And the more you tell that story, the more you start to believe it. You forget your power. You forget your ability to choose a different response. And slowly, you become the noise. The reason complaining destroys potential is not just because it wastes time, it poisons belief. Each time you give voice to frustration without action, you dig a trench for your own energy to collapse into. You reinforce a lie, that you're stuck, that someone else is responsible, that change is outside of your control. But here's the truth. Your circumstances are not sovereign. You are. Your power is not in the problem, it's in the response. And those who build unshakable lives understand this at their core. The strongest men, men of steel, men of weight, they face life differently. When life pushes, they don't whine. They withstand. They do not avoid emotion, but they do not let it spill uselessly. They transmute it. They feel the burn of disappointment and forge it into motion. They take rejection and twist it into resolve. They take insult and build armor from it. They don't need sympathy. They need progress. Imagine you are handed a task. It's unfair, it's thankless, it drains you. You didn't ask for it, and no one will praise you when it's done. The average man complains, loudly, repeatedly, seeking validation, seeking an audience for his misery. But what happens if you say nothing? What happens if you don't explain, justify, or beg? You simply nod and begin. You pour your energy into execution, not explanation. While others make noise, you move. While they gather sympathy, you gather results. And when the work is done, you don't boast. You simply stand, finished, whole, quiet. This is where respect is born, not in declarations, but in demonstration. People won't always notice at first. The loud ones get attention, but over time, the quiet one gets trust. The one who doesn't complain, but completes. The one who doesn't react, but responds. That man is rare. That man is dangerous, because he controls what others cannot, himself. Ask yourself honestly, what do I gain when I complain? Does it move me forward? Does it solve the issue? Or does it leave me weaker, smaller, more helpless than before? Most complaints are echoes. They bounce around rooms and minds, building nothing. But every time you take that same energy and channel it into action, you rise. So train yourself. When the urge to complain hits, replace it, not with silence for the sake of pride, but with questions that lift you. What can I do next? What is this teaching me? Where is the leverage inside this pain? These are the questions of growth. These are the thoughts that build the foundation of power. When life gets heavy, you don't collapse beneath it. You lift it quietly, consistently, without applause. The world is saturated with noise, opinions, blame, outrage, excuses. Every conversation is filled with people offloading their weight onto others. Don't be one of them. Be the man who carries his burden without needing permission. The one who doesn't narrate his struggle, but masters it. That doesn't mean bottling emotion. It means channeling it, like fire through a furnace, not wildfire in a field. It means using your pain as fuel, not as theater. And that silence, that controlled restraint, that refusal to broadcast your suffering for validation, that's where your real power lives. It's the calm of a man who knows what he's capable of, who doesn't need to be seen suffering to prove he's strong, because his results will speak. His endurance will speak, and his absence of complaint will roar louder than words ever could. So choose the harder path, the path of quiet strength. When the pressure comes, and it will, don't reach for pity. Reach for discipline. Reach for direction. Ask yourself not why this is happening, but what you're going to do about it. Let others make noise, you make moves. That's how you rise. That's how you win. Speak only when necessary. The more a man speaks, the more he exposes his fears, his uncertainty, his lack of discipline. Words, though invisible, leave trails behind. They tell others not just what you think, but how you think. And when they are poured out carelessly, they lose their edge. Words are like coins. The more freely they are tossed, the less value they hold. But a man who guards his speech, who sharpens his words like blades and draws them only when needed, becomes a presence people cannot ignore. In today's world, talk is cheap. People speak just to speak. They fill silence as if it's uncomfortable. They explain what no one asked, defend points no one challenged, and ramble in circles until their voice means nothing. But there is another kind of man, the rare kind, the man who doesn't speak until he must. And when he does, people listen, not because he demands it, but because his silence has earned it. This habit is more than verbal discipline. It is internal control. It shows a man's ability to master his impulse, not just the impulse to speak, but the impulse to be seen, to be heard, to be right. The man who can sit in silence without needing to prove himself possesses a quiet force that outlasts volume. He doesn't argue to win. He doesn't interrupt to dominate. He watches, he calculates, he waits, and then when the time is right, he speaks. Not to impress, but to impact. Picture a room full of voices. Everyone's talking over each other. Ideas flying, emotions rising, noise without clarity. And in the corner, there you are, silent, not passive, present. You are watching, weighing, understanding. Then you speak. One sentence, measured, calm, exact. The room stills, heads turn, not because you raised your voice, but because you raised the standard. That's what happens when a man speaks, only when it matters. He commands without shouting. He leads without boasting. But this kind of presence isn't born from silence alone. It's born from restraint. The hardest thing is not speaking when you know you can. It's choosing to wait. It's watching others spill their thoughts, and knowing your silence is more powerful than their noise. It's being insulted and refusing to react. It's having the answer and letting the room breathe before you give it. This is not silence born of fear. It's silence born of wisdom. Ask yourself, how often do you speak just to ease discomfort? How often do you share your plans hoping for approval? How many times have your words in hindsight made you smaller instead of stronger? Your voice is not just sound, it is identity. Every sentence adds to or subtracts from your stature. So why throw your weight around carelessly? Why give others access to your mind without requiring that they earn it? The greatest men in history didn't drown the world with words, they moved it with decisions. They built their influence on thought, not noise, and when they spoke with precision. They didn't announce their intentions, they executed them. They didn't explain their greatness, they proved it. Every word was a tool, honed through silence, delivered with certainty. This is not ancient wisdom, it's eternal truth. You don't need to narrate your journey. You don't need to respond to every criticism. Let people wonder. Let them speculate. That mystery, that distance, builds power. And when the time comes to reveal your thoughts, your silence will have prepared the ground. Your words will hit deeper because they are rare. They will carry weight because they have not been diluted. Discipline yourself. When tempted to interrupt, pause. When your ego wants to speak, wait. When your emotions rise, breathe. Let your silence be your strength. Let your restraint build your reputation. It will not feel natural at first. Silence is uncomfortable for the undisciplined, but over time you will find something sacred in it, a stillness that sharpens, a quiet that commands. Your voice is not meant to be thrown around like confetti. It is meant to be wielded like a sword, clean, controlled, effective. Speak less, mean more. Let others waste their breath trying to be heard. You're building presence. You're earning respect, one measured sentence at a time. In the end, your voice is either noise or power. Every man chooses. Choose wisely. Choose restraint, choose control. Because when you do speak, they'll remember. Train the habit of self-reliance. No one is coming to save you. Not the government, not your boss, not your family, not your friends. The Calvary is not on its way. That's the first truth every powerful man must confront, and it stings. It strips you of illusion. It pulls the comfort right out from under you. But once you accept it, not with bitterness, not with self-pity, but with clear-eyed resolve, everything changes. Because now, you stop waiting. You stop hoping someone will notice. You stop fantasizing about someone stepping in. You start building. You start moving. You become a man in motion, a man of action. And that shift, that is where danger begins for the world, and power begins for you. Why is this habit so vital? Because dependence may wear the mask of safety, but it's a cage, a quiet, padded prison that teaches you to wait instead of create. It whispers, someone else will fix this. It trains your spirit to lean, to beg, to blame. And the longer you sit in that space, the softer you become. Your instincts dull, your muscles weaken, your potential fades into a fog of helplessness. But the man who steps out, who accepts that everything is on him, he breaks the cage. He becomes sharp, resourceful, resilient. He doesn't need to be saved because he has learned how to stand. Now, self-reliance doesn't mean you reject help or that you isolate yourself in pride. No, it means you never depend on it. It means your foundation is internal. When the storm hits, and it always will, your mind doesn't crumble. You become your own anchor, your own voice of reason, your own fire. You still take advice, you still learn from others. But if they walk away, if they disappear, your ground does not shake. You are not undone. You continue. Imagine something breaks. A door, a deal, a plan. Most people freeze. They look around, they curse, they make calls, they stall. But you breathe, you assess, you move. You adapt, not because you have every answer, but because you've trained your mind to figure it out. That's the core of self-reliance, not having everything, but being willing to become what is needed. You stop saying, I can't. You start asking, how can I? You begin with what's in your hands. No money? Learn to manage. No connections? Build them. No clue where to start? Pick a direction and walk. Do not wait for permission. Do not waste time mourning what's missing. Use what's present. Every challenge becomes your training ground. Every setback becomes your curriculum. You fail, you adjust. You get hit, you recalibrate. You fall, you stand, over and over, until you realize you are enough. Self-reliance begins in the small things. Something goes wrong in your day. Do you curse your luck or do you solve it? Your car breaks down. Your schedule gets wrecked. Your plans fall through. Do you collapse or do you respond? Do you start looking inward for resourcefulness or outward for someone to blame? Every one of these moments is a test, a sharpening of your edge. They whisper the same question. Will you carry this or wait to be carried? Ask yourself this. If all your support disappeared today, no safety net, no handouts, no guidance, could you stand? Could you build again from nothing? Could you move forward on grit, on principle, on sheer will? If the answer is no, then that's your work. That's your fire. You must become the kind of man who, when stripped down to nothing, still knows how to rise. This mindset isn't harsh, it's honest. It's not cold, it's clear. And it's not about rejecting community. It's about deserving to lead in one. Because in a world full of leaning men, the man who stands becomes the pillar others look to. Not the one who talks the loudest, but the one who moves when others freeze. The one who doesn't complain about the mountain, but starts climbing. Self-reliance is the deepest form of self-respect. You're telling the world, I trust myself. I will figure this out. I don't need everything to be perfect or fair or easy. I need one thing, me, and I am here, I am awake, I am capable. So start with this moment. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait for someone to tell you how. Look around. What can you solve with what you have right now? No excuses, no stories, just forward motion. That's how it begins. The man who accepts no one becomes the man who is already here. And that man, he doesn't just survive, he dominates. Quietly, relentlessly, completely. Make your bed and keep your space clean. Your outer world is a mirror. It reflects the shape and sharpness of your inner life. Every object left out of place, every surface layered in dust, every pile of clutter you ignore, they speak, not just to others, but to you. They whisper messages your mind absorbs. You're not in control. You don't finish things, you tolerate disorder, and whether you realize it or not, those messages shape your mindset. A cluttered room becomes a breeding ground for a cluttered mind. Confusion settles in, focus scatters. But when you walk into a space that is clean, organized, and intentional, when you step into a room that reflects control, you feel it. It's not just the room that's sharp, you are. This habit, keeping your environment in order, may look like a small thing, a made bed, a cleared desk, a swept floor, but it's not about neatness. It's about discipline. It's about training your brain to finish, to focus, to own. When you take a moment to arrange, to clean, to complete, you're conditioning your mind to value order. You're feeding your subconscious the message, I show up, I handle what's mine, I don't walk past what's broken. And over time, this rewires how you see yourself, not as someone waiting for life to get easier, but as someone building structure in chaos. The truth is, the world throws enough unpredictability at you. You can't control everything out there, people, outcomes, events, but you can control your space. And when you control your space, you begin to feel more grounded in yourself. You're no longer waking up to visual noise. You're waking up to a message of readiness. You walk into your room and it tells you, you are focused, you are capable, you are prepared. Imagine 2 mornings. In the first, you wake up groggy. Your room greets you with scattered clothes, an unmade bed, yesterday's dishes, paperwork half done. That physical chaos drags your mental state down before your feet even hit the floor. You begin your day already behind, already overwhelmed. But now picture the second morning. You rise and the bed is made. The room is clean. The air feels lighter. Nothing is screaming for your attention. Instead of chaos, there is calm. Instead of confusion, there is clarity. You're not wasting time deciding what to clean. You're already ready. You start your day with power. You don't need perfection. You need consistency. You don't need a luxury home to create discipline. You need intention. Wherever you live, be it a palace or a one-room flat, how you treat your environment reveals how you treat yourself. It speaks to your respect, your pride, your focus. And more than anything, it trains your habits. When you clean your desk, you're training follow-through. When you wipe the table, you're reinforcing awareness. When you make your bed, you're starting the day with completion. Small acts repeated daily build inner strength. Ask yourself, what messes are you walking past each day without fixing? What piles have you told yourself you'll handle later? These aren't just chores, they're signals. They are daily reminders of whether you live with intention or with neglect. Start small. Make your bed. Not once, but every single morning. Wipe down your tools after every use. Clean your shoes. Fold your laundry without delay. These actions might seem too simple to matter, but that's the point. If you can't control the small, how will you handle the large? If you ignore the mess in front of you, How will you tackle the problems that demand full presence, full strength, full leadership? A man who keeps his world clean walks differently. He speaks with more weight. He enters a room with a quieter confidence because he knows I'm in control of what I can control. And that, in a world of chaos, is rare power. So don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for a perfect day. Begin now with what's in front of you, not for show, not for praise, but because it builds you. Your outer world is the first battlefield. If you win there, your mind becomes sharper, your energy becomes cleaner, your confidence becomes real, not a performance, but a reflection of who you've trained yourself to be. The man who keeps his space in order keeps his mind in order, and when the storms of life come, and they will, he doesn't stumble. He's ready. Because every drawer he closed, every shirt he folded, every surface he cleaned was not just preparation for the day, it was preparation for life. Read something that challenges you. Most people read like they're looking into a mirror, hoping to see their own beliefs reflected back at them, hoping to be comforted, not challenged. They pick books that reinforce what they already know, already believe, already feel. And in doing so, they remain exactly where they are, comfortable, confident, but stagnant. They collect words, not wisdom, pages, not power. But the rare man, the one who reads not for agreement, but for expansion, he grows sharper with every book. He becomes stronger with every idea that tests him. He becomes dangerous in the best way, because now he doesn't just think, he knows how to think. This habit, though subtle, is transformative, because your ideas form the framework of your life. What you believe becomes what you build. And if your mental foundation is made of soft, familiar, unchallenged thoughts, it will collapse the moment life applies pressure. But when you intentionally expose your mind to difficulty, when you feed it ideas that are dense, unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, it expands, it breaks, it reforms, it strengthens. Just like a muscle stretched under tension, your intellect grows only through resistance. Reading for growth is not entertainment, it's training. You don't pick up a book to escape reality. You pick it up to confront it. You seek out authors who see the world differently than you do, thinkers who are not afraid to tell the truth, even when it cuts. You choose books that don't just answer your questions, they ask better ones. The goal isn't to feel good, it's to get better. Imagine reaching for a book that's dense, the kind with no punchlines, no fluff. You open it, and after the first few pages, you're lost. You reread the same paragraph twice, maybe 3 times. The words are unfamiliar. The logic twists in unexpected ways. A part of you wants to put it down, to go back to something easier. But you don't. You press on. Slowly, the fog lifts. You begin to see the structure, the point, the meaning. You're not just reading, you're wrestling. You're holding ideas in your hands, turning them over, inspecting them. And in that struggle, your own mind is being shaped. Now something shifts. You start to think differently, not louder, but clearer. Your conversations take on new weight. You're not parroting cliches. You're offering insight. You don't get triggered by disagreement. You invite it. Because you've trained yourself to question deeply, not react instantly. Your mind becomes a place of depth, not just noise. You begin to distinguish between what sounds smart and what is smart, between what feels true and what holds up under fire. This kind of reading rewires the way you live. Your decisions become more thoughtful. Your patience expands. Your curiosity awakens. You stop needing every moment to make sense right away because you've built tolerance for complexity. And in a world that values speed over thought, that alone makes you rare. Ask yourself, when was the last time a book disagreed with you? Not annoyed you, not offended you, but genuinely challenged the way you see the world. When was the last time you sat with a concept so foreign it made your head ache? That's the edge. That's where real growth begins. Not in the books that coddle you, but in the ones that stretch you. Not in the pages that praise your views, but in the ones that force you to examine them. Train your mind like a warrior trains his body. Don't lift only what's light. Don't reach only for the familiar. Go heavy. Pick up the books that others avoid because they're too dense, or too old, or too complex. Read the classics. Read philosophy. Read about history, economics, power, psychology. Read what makes you pause mid-sentence and say, wait, I need to think about that. Read what you don't yet understand. Because understanding is forged in the pursuit. Books are mentors in paper form. And not all mentors are meant to agree with you. Some are meant to break you open, to humble you, to shake you out of your assumptions. Choose them wisely. But more importantly, use them. Don't read passively. Engage. Take notes. Argue with the author. Let the text provoke you. Let it demand more from your thinking. Let it push you to the next level. Because reading should not be a retreat from life, it should be preparation for it. A tool that sharpens your perception, a furnace that tempers your mind, a mirror that doesn't just show you, but shows you what you could become. So, make the habit sacred. Read daily, even if just a few pages. And always keep something nearby that makes you a little uncomfortable. A book that feels just out of reach, because that reach, that stretch, is where the man you're becoming is forged. Reflect on your day before you sleep. The day may end, but the real work often begins in the silence that follows. Long after the noise quiets, not because the day was perfect, but because you used it. Greatness isn't built in sprints, it's built in inches, and those inches are gained in quiet moments like this. You don't need a dramatic breakthrough. You need daily calibration. You need a habit of facing yourself fully before the day ends. This builds a kind of mental edge that others don't understand. It's quiet, it's unglamorous, but it's effective. Because the man who reflects is the man who refines, and the man who refines is the man who rises. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time I ended a day wiser than I began it? When was the last time I captured a lesson instead of letting it vanish? How many insights have I lost because I was too distracted to catch them? Every day carries a lesson. Every mistake carries a message. But those lessons are not automatic. They must be mined. They must be pulled from the noise and shaped into strategy. Start tonight. Don't overcomplicate it. 5 minutes. Sit down. Ask, what did I do well? What did I neglect? What would I do differently tomorrow? Write it down or speak it aloud. Doesn't matter. What matters is the awareness, the discipline, the message you're sending to yourself. I don't live blindly. I don't live on autopilot. I'm steering this ship. That's what builds confidence. Not positive affirmations, but proof. The proof that you're not ignoring your life. You're engaging with it. You're learning from it. You're mastering it. And mastery, in the end, doesn't come from a single moment. It comes from this kind of consistency, from the decision to extract value from every day, no matter how messy or mundane, from the choice to never let a lesson slip through your fingers. Because the truth is, the man who reflects is the man who doesn't waste time. He may fail, he may stumble, but he learns. And that learning stacks, it compounds, until the small edge he gains each night becomes a sharp, unstoppable blade. So take the time. 5 minutes of silence, 5 minutes of truth, 5 minutes to face the day and prepare for the next. That's how legacies are built, not by accident, but by intention, one honest night at a time. Write down your goals every morning. A man without a goal is a vessel at the mercy of the sea, directionless, reactive, easily pulled by tides he didn't choose. He wakes up and immediately submits to the day's chaos, the voices of others, and before long he's sprinting through hours without ever deciding why. He becomes busy but aimless, productive but powerless. His energy, like a flashlight in fog, scatters. But the man who starts his day with written goals, who takes just a few minutes each morning to decide what matters, that man is different. He doesn't drift, he drives. This isn't about motivation, it's about command. Writing down your goals by hand each morning is not a feel-good exercise, it's a declaration of authority. You are telling your mind, your body, and your world, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm building. This is who I am today. Most men wait to feel ready. They wait for clarity to arrive like lightning. But clarity doesn't come by waiting. It comes through intentional direction. And that direction begins in silence, before the world starts shouting. Why is this practice so powerful? Because your mind is a battlefield. And writing goals is how you deploy your army. You start responding instead of initiating. You chase what's urgent instead of what's important. But when you put pen to paper and state clearly what must be done, you filter out the noise. Your subconscious begins aligning every perception, every decision, every step toward those few chosen aims. This isn't wishful thinking. This is neural architecture. You're programming your focus with precision. You're giving your brain a mission, not a mood. Picture the scene. It's early. The world is quiet. No notifications. No noise. Just you, a blank page, and the raw power of choosing. You sit down, you write 3 goals. Maybe fewer, maybe more. They're not vague, not distant dreams. They're real, relevant, razor sharp. Finish the proposal. Call the lead. Run 5 miles. They carry urgency. They command your attention. You close the notebook, and in that moment, something clicks. You're no longer waking up to react. you're waking up to act. Your steps, your time, your choices all begin to orbit those goals. You stop asking, what should I do next? And start answering, what did I already decide matters? And when this habit is skipped, when the pen stays idle, drift returns. You move, but without fire. You tick boxes, but nothing meaningful gets built. Your day fills with tasks that feel productive, but leave you hollow. Errands, noise, that's the cost of not anchoring your day in intention. Ask yourself right now, do you know what you want from today? Do you have it written? Or are you hoping clarity will come later? Are you waiting for the world to give you direction, or are you claiming it for yourself before the world gets a chance? This is the ritual of men who lead, not just others, but themselves. Before the sun rises, before the demands of the world crash through the door, they speak to themselves, not in vague ambition, but in focused action. The act of writing is not merely symbolic, it's strategic. What you write, you embed. You move it from fleeting thought to structured aim. You give it shape, weight, priority. And the beauty of this habit is in its simplicity. No need for elaborate journals or perfect phrasing, just the act of pausing, deciding, and writing. You're not performing for an audience. You're commanding your consciousness. And over time, this daily act accumulates. A stack of goals, a record of resolve, a rhythm of action. While others wait for breakthroughs, you build them. One written intention at a time. Understand this, men of power are not confused, they are not scattered, they are not reactive. They are committed. And that commitment does not begin with motivation or emotion, it begins with clarity. And clarity is born in ink, scribbled quickly before dawn, while the rest of the world still sleeps. That is the edge. That is the quiet place where leaders are made, not through loud declarations, but through private decisions that shape public results. So make it your ritual. Every morning, before the world speaks to you, you speak to you. Sit, breathe, decide, write. No apologies, just goals, just intention, just clarity. Because once the day begins, the war begins. And if you don't have your targets locked in, you'll spend your energy chasing noise instead of making impact. Your life is built one day at a time, and each day begins with one question. What am I aiming for? Don't let that question go unanswered. Answer it in ink, and then live like you meant it. Delay your first pleasure of the day, the first victory of the day. Must not be comfort, it must be control. In those early minutes after you rise, you are setting the tone for everything that follows. That tone will either be forged by strength or diluted by softness. It will either bend toward command or collapse into convenience. The man who chooses ease first sinks into the bed, delays action, feels a momentary comfort, but it comes with a long-term cost. Because what begins in weakness tends to continue that way. The first choice of the day is not small. It is a signal to your body, your mind, and your future that either you are in charge or your impulses are. Habits do not exist in isolation. They stack. One leads into the next like links in a chain. If the first link is soft, the rest don't hold. If your opening move is indulgence, laziness, then don't be surprised when discipline seems distant later. But when you open the day with strength, when you reject the pull of comfort and instead reach for the harder path, you lay a foundation for something far more powerful than pleasure, momentum. And momentum, once built, can carry you through the fires that break most men. This has nothing to do with punishing yourself. Discipline is not pain for the sake of pain, it's power. It's the decision to act in alignment with your highest self instead of your laziest instinct. When you delay your first pleasure, when you push it just a little farther down the line, you begin rewiring your mind to respect effort. You stop believing that you deserve rewards simply for waking up. You begin to earn it. Picture the first hour of your day. It's early. Still, most of the world is asleep. You swing your legs over the side of the bed, and in that moment a voice rises, not outside of you, but inside. It whispers, take it slow. You've earned rest. You worked hard yesterday. That voice is the voice of weakness wrapped in reason. It sounds kind, but it is your enemy. Because once you obey it, once you soften your posture, your mind follows. But what if instead you move, you rise, you hydrate, you stretch, you read, you train, you build, you begin the day with intent. And from that first act of control, a storm of strength begins to gather. Now imagine two men. Both rise at the same hour. One reaches for his comfort first, something sweet, a few minutes of easy pleasure. It feels good for a while, but then the day begins to blur. His focus softens. The hours slip by. He chases tasks but completes few. He ends the day wondering where the time went. The other man rises and goes directly into motion. He reads 10 pages. He completes his workout. He journals. He finishes a key task. Then and only then he rests. He watches something. He eats something good. But that pleasure tastes different. It's richer, fuller. Not because the reward changed, but because he did, because he earned it. This distinction matters. When pleasure follows pain, it fortifies you. When it precedes effort, it weakens you. The sequence matters. That's what most men never realize. Satisfaction is not just about what you consume. It's about when you consume it. You can eat the same meal, watch the same show, take the same walk. But if it follows discipline, it fills you. If it comes before effort, it drains you. So ask yourself, what do you reach for first each morning? Is it fuel or fantasy? Do you begin with movement or with numbness? Because the answer to that question reveals more than your routine. It reveals your relationship with yourself. It shows whether you expect comfort as a right or accept it as a reward. It shows whether you are a man who waits for the day to tell him what to do or one who commands the day from the first breath. You don't need to become a monk. You don't need to strip your life of every comfort. But you do need to learn the power of sequence. Choose the pain first. Choose the effort. Choose the fire. Then let the comfort follow. Let it be earned, not expected. Because that earned comfort, after the work, after the focus, after the strain, feels like victory. And victory, no matter how small, builds identity. It teaches your mind every single morning that you are the one in control. This is how you begin to command your days, not by chasing motivation, but by winning the first battle against ease. Once you win that battle, the rest of the day bends more easily to your will. You walk taller, you act with conviction, and you become a man not ruled by what's easy, but by what's right. So make this your rule. The first thing you reach for each morning must not be pleasure, it must be purpose. Push the reward. Delay the gratification. Delay the entertainment. Train first. Work first. Build first. Then rest knowing you've earned it. That small reversal of order, of impulse, is where greatness begins. Not in grand moments, but in quiet victories. 1 hour, one choice every morning. That's how power is forged. Cultivate one powerful skill, slowly, daily, daily, daily. The world doesn't reward those who sample everything. It rewards those who master something. Dabblers drift. Mastery is not the result of ambition alone. It is born of repetition, of devotion, of the decision to go deep where others skim. Most people never experience the power of mastery because they don't stay long enough with anything to become powerful. They begin with excitement, then abandon when it becomes routine. They chase the rush of starting but avoid the grind of repetition. They mistake speed for growth and variety for development. So they collect skills like trinkets, barely scratched, never sharpened. They talk a lot, post a lot, plan a lot, but they never build anything real. And after years of this, they wonder why their confidence is thin and their results are average. But then there's another kind of man. He understands a different law, the law of depth. He chooses one skill, not 10. He chooses something that aligns with his path, something that, if mastered, will open doors and build leverage. He doesn't rush. He doesn't advertise. He simply practices, quietly, daily. And while others chase dopamine, he chases craft. He becomes a student, not once, but for life. And slowly, almost invisibly, he sharpens an edge no one can compete with. What kind of skill should you master? That's not a question the world can answer for you. It must come from within. It must matter to you. It must link to your purpose, your calling, your advantage. It could be the art of writing, learning to communicate with clarity and persuasion. It could be public speaking, commanding a room with voice and presence. It could be negotiation, critical thinking, long-form memory, coding, strategy, a specific trade or craft. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it is yours, that it is chosen, not stumbled into, that you look at it and say, if I could become great at this, truly great, it would change everything. Once you've found that skill, the real work begins, not with intensity, but with consistency. You don't need 8 hours a day, you need 15 minutes, done every day. Not randomly, not when convenient. Daily, even on the bad days, especially on the bad days. Mastery isn't about grand gestures, it's about tiny, repeated acts of effort that compound like interest. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. But the man who shows up, who keeps showing up, he begins to pull ahead, quietly at first, then obviously. Picture the habit in action. Before the sun rises, you sit in silence with your notebook. You write for 30 minutes, just you and the craft. You're not writing to impress, you're writing to improve. Or perhaps it's logic. You sit with a textbook or a lecture and you go line by line. You don't skim, you study. Or you rehearse speeches, practice sales calls, sharpen mental frameworks. Whatever your path is, you walk it, not all at once, but inch by inch. You're not rushing, you're compounding. And then something begins to happen. You don't notice it at first. The work still feels rough. The results still feel distant, but you persist day after day, and eventually something shifts. People around you begin to notice. They see how your speech lands differently, how your thoughts cut cleaner, how your results rise while theirs stall. They call it talent, they call it luck, but it isn't. It's simply this: you chose one thing and did it longer, deeper, and with more discipline than they were willing to. That's the difference. Not brilliance, not connections, discipline, depth, focus. While others wandered from skill to skill, seduced by the next new trick, you stayed the course. You made mastery a ritual, and now that ritual becomes your advantage. This kind of focus changes who you are, not just what you do. When you commit to one skill, your self-trust grows. You begin to see yourself as capable, reliable, precise. You stop doubting your direction because you are walking it. You stop needing praise because you have proof. You no longer need to wonder if you're improving. You can see it. You don't need to seek validation from the world because you have validation from your own results. In that inner confidence, that's what makes you formidable. Ask yourself now, what is the one skill that if I mastered it would change the game for me? Not 100 scattered interests, not a trendy topic, one skill. The one that unlocks your next level. Then ask, am I willing to give it 15 minutes a day? Am I willing to make that promise to myself and keep it? If the answer is yes, begin now, today. Not with pressure, but with presence. Don't worry about perfection. Don't seek speed. Seek depth. Seek understanding. Seek refinement. You'll stumble, that's fine. You'll get bored, that's expected. But if you stay, if you push through the plateaus, if you refuse to quit when the dopamine fades, you will cross a threshold that most men never reach. 1 year from now, your skill will speak for itself. People will ask how you became so effective. They'll ask what book you read, what hack you used, what shortcut you found. But you'll know the truth. You didn't dabble. You decided. You didn't chase. You chose. You didn't hope. You built. Quietly, daily. Relentlessly. That is the path of mastery. Not loud, not glamorous, but real and rare, and yours if you're willing to walk it. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand you. The urge to explain is one of the most subtle, seductive traps a man can fall into. You build an idea, a goal, a fire inside you, and almost immediately the world begins to question it. Not always out of malice, but out of limitation, out of their own fears, their own projections, and something inside you feels that pull. You want to speak, to justify, to explain your steps, your silence, your speed. You want to be understood, to be accepted. You want someone to say, ah, now I get it. Now it makes sense. But that moment almost never comes. And if you spend your time chasing it, you begin trading your direction for their approval. And that is a trade that will bankrupt your soul. Most people will not understand your vision. And that's not a problem, it's the point. It wasn't given to them. It was given to you. It was carved into your intuition, your experience, your perspective. And just because it's not visible to others doesn't mean it's invalid. In fact, the more powerful the vision, the less visible it will be to the average mind, because the average mind is not built for originality. It's built for repetition, for comfort, for what already exists. So when you step outside that pattern, when you begin building something new, something personal, something yours, expect silence, expect confusion, expect doubt, but do not expect understanding. Understanding is earned through outcome, not explanation. Why is this habit of not explaining so powerful? Because every time you try to explain yourself to someone who doesn't believe in your vision, you leak energy. You pour yourself into a space that cannot hold you. Like trying to fill a broken jar, your words fall through empty cracks. You find yourself repeating, defending, elaborating, and each word drains you just a little more. It takes your fire, your focus, your mental real estate, and hand it over to someone who wasn't even willing to build with you. Think about how many hours, how many sleepless nights, how much emotional energy has been lost in trying to make the blind see. How many times have you left a conversation feeling smaller, not because your dream shrank, but because you made the mistake of offering it to someone who wasn't ready to receive it. When you stop explaining, something radical happens. You reclaim yourself. You reclaim your time. You reclaim your silence. You reclaim the sacred ground of your inner world. Your vision, once diluted by the opinions of others, becomes pure again, focused, yours. You stop spending energy trying to be understood and start spending it becoming undeniable. You stop reacting and start building. You shift from trying to convince to simply creating. And that shift, that's the beginning of greatness. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. The world is loud. It has too many voices, too many opinions, too many expectations, and if you listen too long, you'll lose the very essence of what you are here to do. At some point, you must choose your path over their praise. You must say, "This is my direction. I will walk it. You can walk or you can walk with me, but I am no longer waiting for permission." Now picture this in your life. Someone close to you, maybe a friend, a coworker, a relative, questions your choices. They don't see why you're waking up early or grinding in silence or turning down the usual pleasures. They don't understand why you've disappeared from social scenes, why you've gone quiet. They ask, "Why are you doing all this? What's the point?" And you feel that old urge rise up to explain, to say, "I'm trying to build something. I'm trying to change. I'm doing this for my future." But instead, you don't. You smile, you nod, you keep moving. You don't argue, you execute. And 6 months later, that same person is asking how you did it. That is the power of quiet execution. That is the strength of non-explanation. There is a strength in mystery, a strength in not showing your hand, a power in keeping your plans sacred, untouched by the opinions of the unqualified. When you stop announcing every move, when you stop broadcasting every decision, you stop inviting resistance, you begin to move in silence, in precision. You begin to protect your fire from the winds of doubt. Your vision becomes a furnace, not something exposed to the elements, but something protected, refined, intensified in the quiet. Ask yourself, how much time have I wasted trying to be understood by people who have never built anything themselves? How many plans have I shared prematurely, only to have them criticized, questioned, mocked? How many times have I walked away from a conversation less confident than when I entered it? Not because I was wrong, but because I gave the right idea to the wrong audience. You don't owe the world your blueprint. You owe yourself your results. You owe yourself the dignity of staying focused, the clarity of moving forward, the honor of keeping your promise to yourself. Not everything you do has to be seen. Not every move needs commentary. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Sometimes the greatest message you send is the life you live, not the words you speak. So let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them assume. Your silence will say more than your arguments ever could. Your discipline will speak volumes. Your transformation will explain everything. When they see the results, when they see the focus in your eyes, the changes in your life, the elevation in your energy, they'll understand, or they won't. Either way, you'll be too far ahead to care. This is the discipline of vision, the habit of silence, the commitment to protect what is still forming. You don't need to prove your worth every time someone doubts it. You don't need to validate your path every time someone questions it. You don't need to explain what was never theirs to see. You were not born to be understood. You were born to be unstoppable. Let that be your focus. Let that be your fuel. And when the noise gets loud, go quiet. When the pressure to explain rises, go deeper into your work, into your craft, into your mission. Because at the end of it all, they won't remember what you said. They'll remember what you built. Let your results speak. Let your life be the explanation. Let your greatness be the final word. Let action speak louder than intention. Every man has dreams. Some of them are quiet and hidden. Others are worn like armor, spoken often and loudly in coffee shops and late-night promises to the self. Dreams of greatness, of wealth, of impact. Dreams of escaping mediocrity and living a life that commands respect. And yet, most of those dreams die, not because they were impossible, but because they never made the leap from intention to action. They remain suspended in the imagination, whispered in passing, romanticized in journals and conversations, but never moved upon. This is the truth the world teaches, silently and ruthlessly. The world does not respond to what you say you will do. It does not reward potential. It doesn't care for eloquent plans or endless preparation. It rewards movement. Action. That's the line that separates men who watch from the sidelines and men who shape their world. And once you truly understand this, not intellectually but viscerally, it becomes a revolution inside you, because the moment you stop talking and start doing, you become something rare. Tension is easy. It gives you the illusion of progress. Saying, I'm going to start a business, or I'm going to get in shape, or I'm working on something big feels productive. It soothes the ego. It buys you praise without effort. People nod. They say, that's amazing. They believe your words and applaud your ambition. But no reality changes. No brick is laid. No enemy is conquered. And so your life remains the same, rich in potential, poor in result. But action, real, deliberate, silent action changes everything. It cuts through the fog. It builds friction. It demands courage because it costs you. You have to risk looking foolish. You have to sweat, sacrifice, and fail in private. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to move without guarantee, and that's why so few do it. Because while talking feels good, doing feels hard. And yet it's the doing that creates the man. This is not about being impulsive. It's not about rushing. It's about choosing decisiveness over hesitation, movement over perfection, turning I want to into I did, and letting that pattern become your rhythm. And the moment that shift happens, when action becomes your default and not your exception, something inside you changes. The world begins to respond, quietly at first. Opportunities reveal themselves. People begin to take notice, not because you shouted, but because your work whispered in places your voice could never reach. You begin to separate from the crowd, not with noise, but with evidence. While others are still pitching their dreams, you're building yours. While they wait for feedback, you're stacking wins. And over time, a strange thing happens. The gap between you and them grows so wide that they can no longer understand how you got there. They assume luck. They think connections. They don't realize it started the moment you chose action over applause. What does this habit look like in daily life? It looks like having an idea and not rushing to discuss it, not seeking permission, not asking 5 people what they think. You just begin quietly, with intention, with hunger, with consistency. No grand announcements, no dramatic posts, just motion. 1 hour of focused effort, 1 habit installed, 1 brick laid, day after day. You write the first page of the book instead of tweeting about your future bestseller. You send the first cold email instead of announcing your big idea to your friends. You hit the gym and grind in silence while others post about starting Monday, and then weeks pass, then months. And suddenly someone says, you never told me you were working on that. And all you say, with calm clarity, is, I wasn't working to be seen. I was working to win. Because the man who builds in silence doesn't need to be understood. He doesn't seek validation. He's not addicted to external approval. His reward is the result, the slow, undeniable transformation. The strength that builds from repetition, the pride that emerges not from compliments, but from completion. Ask yourself now with brutal honesty, how much time have you wasted explaining instead of doing? How many plans have lived in your head, slowly gathering dust, while you've waited for the right moment, the right feeling, the right response? How many dreams have you paralyzed with over-talking, with overthinking, with fear disguised as preparation? It's not too late, but the window for talk is closing. This world respects results. It bows to the man who produces, the man who doesn't need to say a word because his actions speak for him in every room. He walks with presence, not because he's loud, but because he delivered. He made something real. And here's the truth few will say out loud. Most people don't want you to act. They prefer when you stay in the planning phase. Because once you act, and especially once you succeed, you force them to confront their own inaction. Your movement becomes a mirror, and that makes people uncomfortable. So they'll say, why don't you wait? Are you sure now's the right time? Maybe think it through more. These are not warnings, these are projections. Do not take advice from the sideline while you're bleeding on the field. Move anyway. When you act without asking, when you produce without permission, when you execute without applause, you take back control. You no longer wait for the world to validate your dreams. You validate them through work, through results, through persistence. And that is when the world begins to listen, not because you asked it to, but because you earned it. Let your dreams live in motion, not in conversation. Let your actions echo long after the room has gone quiet. Let your name carry weight, not because you said it would, but because you built something behind the scenes that now speaks for itself. The man who produces with conviction and without fanfare will always rise. He may not be the loudest in the room, but he will own the room. He may not be praised at first, but he will be watched. respected, emulated, because in a world obsessed with talking, the man who does becomes king. Speak less of what you plan to do. Let the results speak for you. Let your discipline become your identity. Let your work be your voice. You'll be amazed how far you can go when you stop asking for permission, stop waiting for applause, and start building, brick by brick, day by day, in silence and in strength. That's how legacy is written. Not in speeches, in steps. Take yours now. End every day with a promise to yourself. The final habit is quiet. It doesn't arrive with fanfare, applause, or a spotlight. It comes in the stillness, when the world has gone to sleep and it's just you, face to face with your reflection, face to face with your thoughts. It's not heroic in the way movies portray victory. It doesn't parade through the streets or shout its name from rooftops, but it is sacred. It is the closing ritual of the warrior. The man who, no matter how bruised, no matter how imperfect the day was, looks himself in the mirror and declares, "Tomorrow I go again, stronger." Why is this habit so essential? Because how you end things determines how you begin them again. The close of your day is not just a wrap-up. It's the soil where your next morning is planted. And if you end your day scattered, unresolved, buried in guilt or half-truths, you don't wake up fresh, you wake up foggy. You wake up dragging weight from a day you didn't fully face. But when you close your day with presence, with reflection, with resolve, you rise into the morning with fire. You begin again not from chaos, but from clarity. Too many men go to sleep defeated. They carry silent regret into their rest. Unspoken shame, tasks undone, words they wish they hadn't said, battles they avoided. But what if, instead of letting those moments become quiet poison, you face them with open eyes? What if, instead of slipping into sleep unconsciously, you chose how to end your day? What if you could close your nights with a ritual that didn't judge, but recalibrated, that didn't punish, but prepared? That is what this habit is. Not perfection, but renewal. Not judgment, but understanding. Each night becomes a turning point. You stop, you reflect, you breathe, you say, "I didn't get it all right today, but I showed up. And tomorrow I'll show up again with more strength, more precision, more courage." You do this in silence. No one sees it. No one claps for it. And that's what makes it powerful. It's yours, pure, private. You sit down, maybe on the edge of your bed, maybe with a journal, maybe just in thought, and you ask yourself, where did I win today? Where did I slip? Not as a way to shame yourself, but as a way to learn. You see, the moments of strength, when you chose discipline, when you pushed past fear, when you kept your word. You see the failures? Not with a whip, but with awareness. You collect the lessons, you sharpen the vision, and then you speak, maybe out loud, maybe just in spirit. "I'm not done, I'm just getting started." This habit creates something deeper than results. It shapes identity, because the man who closes his day with intention trains himself to own his journey. He stops being passive. He stops being at the mercy of how the day went. Whether the day was a triumph or a mess, he ends it on his terms. And that tells the mind something profound. I am a man who persists. I am a man who learns. I am a man who returns to the fight every single morning. Imagine the feeling. Your head rests on the pillow. The lights are off, but instead of tossing and turning in mental noise, you feel a stillness, a grounding. The day is complete. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. You saw it. You accepted it. You've decided how to rise from it. And just before sleep takes you, you whisper to yourself, "No matter what happens, I keep showing up." That's not weakness. That's unbreakable strength. It's the kind of quiet fire most people never find because they're too busy pretending, avoiding, or rushing to forget. Ask yourself, what would change if I ended every day not in defeat, but in promise? What would happen to my confidence, to my momentum, if I trained myself to close each day with a vow instead of regret? The answer isn't small, it's life-altering, because when your day ends with a declaration, your life begins to reshape itself. You stop fearing failure, you stop resenting difficulty. You begin to view each day as a rep in the gym, another brick in the wall, another chance to sharpen the blade. The truth is, most transformation doesn't come from massive events. It doesn't come from breakthrough moments. It comes from daily practice, from the man who is willing to face himself each night, not just with critique, but with conviction. He doesn't lie to himself. He doesn't flatter himself. He doesn't wallow in guilt. He tells the truth. And then he promises to use that truth to become better. This kind of nightly ritual turns failure into fuel. You stop fearing imperfection because you know Every day ends with a reset. You stop getting stuck because you've built the habit of reflection, course correction, and commitment. You become mentally bulletproof not because you never fall, but because you always rise. You know that no matter what the day brought, it ends with you choosing again, deciding again, stepping forward again. So close your day with fire. Don't leave it hanging. Don't slide into sleep carrying unresolved tension. Face the day. Hold it in your hands. Learn from it, and then look forward, speak forward, decide forward. Even if you had a rough day, especially if you had a rough day, look yourself in the eye and say, "That didn't break me. Tomorrow I return stronger." Because this journey you're on isn't about being flawless. It's not about having every day figured out. It's about being faithful. Faithful to the work, faithful to your evolution, faithful to the man you are becoming. The quiet vow at the end of the day is a contract with your future self, a commitment to persistence, a refusal to quit. It says, "I might not be there yet, but I'm on the path and I am not leaving it." Let the world sleep. Let the noise fade. You are not finished. You are becoming. And every day, no matter how it looked, ends with this sacred promise. Tomorrow, I go again, stronger. Have 1 hour a day with no input. There's a storm you live in constantly. A swirling, unrelenting cyclone of opinions, voices, suggestions. Most men think this noise is just the background hum of modern life. They get so used to it, they stop noticing it altogether. But the storm is real. And it's not passive. It pulls at your attention. It bends your emotions. It shapes your priorities. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop living from the inside out. You start responding to the world instead of creating your own. You become reactive, restless, fragmented. You lose track of your direction. You forget what your voice sounds like. That's why 1 hour a day, completely input-free, is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's not something you do when you have time. It's something you make time for, because without it, you're not operating from clarity. You're just echoing what you've absorbed. And in a world where everyone is talking, posting, promoting, and persuading, clarity has become one of the rarest forms of power. You cannot buy it. You cannot borrow it. You must protect it. Everything around you, media, people, platforms, even well-meaning friends, competes for space in your head. They carry their own moods, fears, dreams, and dramas. If you're not careful, you carry those too. But your life cannot be built on borrowed thoughts. Your mission cannot be driven by noise, and your best decisions will never come from a distracted mind. 1 hour a day, that's all. 1 hour of nothing. No books, no conversation, no input. Just your breath, just your thoughts, just your presence. It sounds simple, almost too simple to matter, but try it. You'll see how difficult it is to be with yourself without reaching for something to fill the space. That difficulty is the sign. The resistance you feel, that's the very edge where transformation begins. Because when you finally sit in silence, something strange happens. First comes restlessness. Your mind will race. You'll remember things you forgot to do. You'll want to stand up, move, do something, anything. That's withdrawal. And if you stay with that discomfort, if you breathe through it and refuse to escape, your mind starts to settle. The surface thoughts slow, the mental clutter clears, and underneath it all, something beautiful emerges. Yourself. Your voice returns. Not the one shaped by outside input, but the one you forgot existed. Ideas start to surface. Real ideas. Not regurgitated thoughts, not trends, not second-hand opinions, but original insight. You begin to notice how you really feel about things. You realize what matters and what doesn't. You see the next step clearly, not because someone told you what to do, but because you listen to your own knowing. That hour of silence becomes a sanctuary, a command center, a place of realignment. This isn't about becoming a monk. It's not about rejecting society or abandoning productivity. It's about returning to yourself. It's about carving out a space that no one else can touch. A place where the only agenda is truth, your truth, not filtered, not forced, just felt. This is where wisdom lives, not in books, not in algorithms, not in external motivation, inside you. Imagine this becoming part of your day. You pause midday, maybe when the world is rushing around you. You step outside. Or sit in a quiet room, no notebook, just air, stillness, breath. At first you feel unproductive, as if you're wasting time. But soon you notice your nervous system relaxing. Your breath deepens, your mind steadies. You're not reacting anymore. You're resetting. This hour becomes your mental sharpening stone. And every decision that follows is cleaner, calmer, more aligned. You begin to crave this silence, not as escape, but as fuel. It becomes the most productive hour of your day, not because you're doing more, but because you're doing less to think better. You stop solving every problem externally. You start realizing that most of what you needed was already within you. It was just buried beneath too much input. Ask yourself, when was the last time I heard nothing? Not even voices, not even guidance, just nothing. When was the last time you met yourself without noise? If your answer is, I don't remember, then you are long overdue. And that's not judgment, it's invitation. Because what you're missing is not information, it's connection. And no one can give it to you, you must make space for it. If you never disconnect, you never reconnect. You may stay busy, you may stay informed, you may even feel successful. But underneath the surface, you're slowly drifting from your own clarity, your own instincts, your own soul. That's the quiet tragedy of modern life. Too much volume, not enough vision. So choose silence, choose space, make it sacred. Not once a month, not once a week, but every single day. 1 hour, one pause, one act of reclaiming your mind. You don't have to call it meditation. You don't need a label. Just be still, breathe. Watch your thoughts, let them rise and fall without clinging, and then listen not to the world, but to you. The world will keep shouting. Let it. Your hour is untouchable. Let the world chase. Let it scream. You sit. You walk. You breathe. You listen. Because clarity isn't found in the noise. It's found in the space between it. And your power doesn't come from more input. It comes from knowing which input to ignore. Give yourself that hour. You'll get more from it than 100 hours of discussing, consuming. You'll find that the most intelligent voice you can follow is the one you've been ignoring the most, your own. And that voice, it doesn't yell. It waits in the silence. Honor it. Guard it. 1 hour a day. No input. Just truth. That's how a man finds his mind again. That's how he remembers who he is. You don't need noise to create a powerful life. You just need discipline and silence. These quiet habits, done when no one's watching, shape your mindset, build your strength, and guide your future. While the world chases hacks and applause, you build a legacy in the shadows. So stay consistent, stay invisible, and soon the results will speak so loudly you won't have to say a word.